The next giant tree that I want to cut back is my guava tree, and it's in the greenhouse. So let's go in and have a look at it.
All right, in we go. So it's been growing on the floor of the greenhouse, and you can see it back here. So the tips of it come up to that sort of height of that bench, and yeah, it's grown really well this year. I'm very pleased with the guava tree. So I'll get that out. We'll put it on the bench and we'll have a look at it and decide how far I'm going to cut it back. I've got the guava on the ground. It's too windy out today to put it up on a bench because it'll blow over. It's kind of top heavy right now. So I'll have to reduce the crown of the tree while it's sitting on the ground, and then once that's reduced back, I can put it up a little higher so we can get a better view of it. Here's a look at the guava tree now. It's on the ground. So it was last pruned in March of 2019, so, you know, early spring. And it's grown a lot since then. It's really done well. I'll start the pruning by trimming back all these long shoots, getting the overall canopy a little more compact. So I'll be trimming back to the first or second set of leaves, depending on what direction they're facing. So I'll begin with this front one, and I'll come in and prune it right here. Like that. There's a tall one here that I can prune right here. I'll prune this one off here. And this one here. I'm using directional pruning with the guava tree, and they don't have alternating leaves, so they don't have a set of horizontal leaves, then a set of vertical leaves, then a set of horizontal leaves, and back to vertical. So they're kind of all in the same plane. So I just try and pick a good point to prune to some outward facing leaves. So in this case, I'll prune it back to here, like that. I'll continue to prune the canopy back. Go back to here. 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 That's roughly got the tree pruned to shape now. I've got the guava tree on the turntable, so I can have a good look at the design of the tree now and start correcting anything that's growing out of proportion or in the wrong place or the wrong direction. So I'll go in now and have a good look at the tree. This approximate view was the front of the tree in the last video, and there's been a shoot growing at the bottom, kind of part way up the trunk there, and I left it on last time, and now I'm rethinking this. It would be nice. One of the greatest things about the guava tree is that peeling, flaking bark, and you can see it kind of developing midpoint on the trunk there, where it's flaking off like almost like paper, and it's kind of a dark brown color, and then it reveals this kind of greenish mottled color beneath. And that's one of the nicest features of the guava tree. It's just beautiful bark texture and color. So I'm thinking that it would be nice to show that off on this tree, to have this beautiful trunk that you can look at. So what I'm getting at is I'm deciding to remove that branch coming off midway up the trunk. I think the canopy will be a nice height at what it is. As that trunk grows thicker, it'll, you know, get in proportion someday. And the taper on the trunk will come from root pruning. I'll keep pruning the roots in that nice radial pattern, and eventually you'll get this nice flare at the base of the tree, and the trunk will slowly develop a really nice taper to it. It looks like there was a branch removed here before, and then, you know, because the flow of sap was interrupted, it sprouted a new shoot in that place. So I'm going to remove that now, just making a nice flush cut so we see this nice glorious trunk someday. All right, here I go. I'll come in and try and get a nice flush cut like that. I see two possible fronts for this tree. One is this view, where you can see the main trunk line comes up here and this branch comes off to the side. The problem is this branch is in front, kind of blocks everything that's happening in this area, so I think that would have to be removed. And then also the opposite view, 180 degrees around here. I've got this view where this branch comes off to the side. Again, I have a branch kind of blocking the structure in this area, so I think that would have to be removed. So either view would be good, and what will determine the front of this tree is then the trunk line looking in the side view. I want, you know, I want the trunk kind of slightly going towards the viewer a bit. I don't want it leaning away from the viewer, so I think this is the nicest trunk line here. The tree slightly tilts towards the viewer a bit. So I think for now, I'm going to prune the tree up using this as the front view. Trees in nature, as they grow, the structure gets finer and finer as you get higher and higher in the canopy. So, you know, you get a few branches down low and then it ramifies and keeps ramifying, and that space between the branches gets smaller and smaller as you get out towards the edges of the canopy. So I want my first initial divisions of the tree quite simple, and then as the tree gets higher and higher, it'll get more and more complex, you know, with more subdividing and more structure. So I'm thinking I will have to remove these lower branches down here, so I just have a simple trunk coming up and dividing into two branches. If I kept this branch here, I would have too much complexity early on in the tree structure, so I think it would get cluttered too quickly. I want to save all my fine branching for the top of the canopy. All right, here I go cleaning up this structure. So I'll start by removing this branch right here, and the tree will look a little bare at first until it, you know, slowly starts developing this canopy on it. So here I go. I'll try and get a fairly good cut like that. That looks quite good. And then I'll remove this smaller branch at the back here like that. I'm looking at the tree from the front now, and I like that a lot better. It cleans up that first division where it goes from one trunk to two branches. Yeah, it cleans up that structure, and it makes it look a little more tree-like, I think, rather than kind of bushy up top. So now I'm going up the major trunk line, the thicker one, up to the top there, and there's a group of branches that, there's a lot of branches coming from one spot on the on that upright trunk. So I've got to go in and sort out that upper structure. I'm looking at this upper structure now, and I don't mind this division. I've got one kind of trunk that goes almost vertical and another one that comes off to the left-hand side. I've got a branch coming out here which looks good, and right above it there's another branch that kind of is in parallel with this branch, and this one's quite thick. So I'm going to remove this upper one. So here I go. I'll just come in here and take that off like that. So I also have this one branch here that kind of crosses in front of the one behind here. So I've got still three branches coming from one spot. So this is the one I'll remove. So I'll do that next. I'll come in here and take that one off. And I'll just clean that cut up a bit like that. So there's the front now, and that should look a little more clean and flowing. I'm out front now looking at the tree, and that's coming along nicely. I think all is looking good on the tree. It's a little congested in the upper portion up here at the apex. The two branches kind of come together, but hopefully something will sprout, and you know, I'll get a new branch in that area and I can slowly work on that upper canopy. But for now, I don't want to reduce the tree too much. I want it to grow strongly over the winter. So I think that's all the work I'll do on the guava tree for today. I think it's looking good. We've got a basic structure in place, and it's something I can just work on in future, building up, you know, both ramification and shape and everything. But I think, you know, the height is looking good. It just needs years and years of training. The next giant to be pruned today is my money tree. It's grown really well over the summer and needs pruning back. The tree's grown really well up top, and the root system kind of mirrors that growth. It's been growing really well. You can see the really large root to the one side. So the root system's a little out of balance. It needs repotting, but I'm not going to do the repotting today. I'm just going to trim the trees, and then I've got to get them all in the plant room this weekend because it's supposed to get really cold. It's really cold now today. It's gone from t-shirt weather yesterday to almost jacket weather today. So I'm just going to prune the top of the tree and get it in the plant room. I generally like to grow these money trees very tall, and then when the stems start getting woody, then I prune them back. So the new growth isn't quite woody yet, so I'm just going to prune them back, leaving some of the leaves on the tree. You can see the new growth is still quite green. It's just starting to maybe turn woody, but I fear I'm not going to be able to fit all my trees in the plant room. They just keep getting larger every year, so I'm just going to prune it back for now, and then, you know, let it grow again over the winter. I can't let it grow taller. If I had more room, I would. I'd let it grow until this got nice and woody and then cut it back, but space will be limited this year, I think. I've got so many trees. So I'll start the pruning now. There'll only be a couple of cuts on this tree, so here I go. I'm going to prune to here, quite high up, leaving lots of leaves on the tree. There's what I took off. And this back one I will prune back to here, like that. And I'll take this branch off that's kind of in the way here. And that will be it. That's all the pruning I'll do on my money tree for this year. The last trees I'll be pruning in this video is my Kapok forest, or my rainforest, and they've grown really tall and need pruning back. I'm standing out front looking at the forest, and I've got to determine a height to prune the trees back to. And these are Kapok trees, and they're not really suited to bonsai. They're very coarse growing, coarse branching, so they need to be quite large trees to be kind of looking miniature at all. So I will need to grow these fairly large, but so I'm going to put my hand in front and try and kind of see where I want the top of the canopy. Maybe kind of down here even. I don't know. I'll prune my tallest tree first, and then kind of prune around it, keeping a sort of asymmetrical, rounded, triangular shape to the canopy. And I think that's about all I can do. So I think I will prune them off somewhere in this region here and kind of shape the canopy from there, and then just see how it grows again. I used to have more of a rainforest look to this planting. I had a lot of ground cover, you know, plants growing on the forest floor, but they started getting quite tall and kind of took away from the trees. So I took a lot of them out, and I pruned a lot of them really far back and
Most of them died. There's a few living out front there, but so I'm going to keep the forest floor a little cleaner for now until the trees are more developed, and then maybe, you know, someday, maybe far in the future, if it ever goes in a show, I'll dress up the floor to look like a rainforest. But for now, I'm just going to concentrate on growing the trees. Here I go with the pruning now. So this is my thickest tree, and I'm going to take it back to here. I'll try an angle cut just to see how it goes. So here I go, just like that. The one beside it will be just a little shorter, like that. And the final tree, maybe here. I'll come out front now and see how it looks. Here's a look at the planting now, all pruned up, and I think it looks quite good. This is just a rough pruning. You can see that some of the trunks are going from that greenish color to almost a brownish gray color, which is you know, getting their first bark. Some of the trees were starting to get thorns on them, and eventually these trunks will be covered in thorns. And then very far into the future, the thorns will fall off. So it's a stage, I guess it's a defense mechanism that while the trees are young, the trunk's covered in thorns, and you know, it makes it hard for anything to climb the tree and injure it. So it's kind of like an armor plating. And as a tree grows old and mature, that bark thickens up and it becomes, you know, it's another type of armor plating for the tree. So it's a good defense mechanism for these kapok trees, and that's probably why they grow to be the tallest trees in the rainforest. I may be working on a tropical rainforest today, but the weather isn't very tropical here today. We've got a high of 9 degrees. So the plant room roof is pretty well done, so I'll be moving a lot of my tropical trees into the plant room this weekend, probably for the winter. I can't see the weather warming up at all, so that'll be it for, you know, the tropical trees outside. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.